What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. In today's video, we are talking about how to adjust and align the hood of your C4 Corvette. Before we get into that though guys, I have these two little hood struts that I want to install on the front of the hood. We have one that's there, looks like it's really old, and then there's a spot for one here, but as you can see, there isn't one. So we're going to install these two new ones today. I have a lovely helper who's going to help hold up the hood while I install these. So let's get going. This is just held in with a hitch pin and a washer. So I'm going to remove those to start, and then I need to remove this hood prop right here. All right guys, mission accomplished. The new struts are in. Thanks to my beautiful helper for holding the hood up while I installed those. Check it out guys, they work pretty good. This prop doesn't even have any weight on it. All the weight's just resting on those new struts. And as I'm closing the hood, I'm actually having to apply some downforce to get it to close. Let's see if it makes a difference with opening the hood. So my hood is pretty good. I pull the lever and it pops right up. Let's see if it pops up even better. About the same. The hood is definitely much easier to pull up. I only need a finger or two, whereas before I needed my whole hand to pull it up. So that's good. I'd say that's a big improvement. I'll put a link to these struts in the description below. My only complaint about these is they didn't come with any new hardware. So as I said, you got to have 2 hitch pins on each side and 2 washers on each side. And so I had to go to the hardware store and buy new hitch pins and washers for this side. Obviously there was a strut already over there, so I already had the hardware over there, but over here I had to buy new. So I wish this kit would have come with hardware, but oh well, it's still pretty good. All right guys, so the reason I'm making this video is because when I first got this car, my hood was out of alignment. Over here on the driver's side, the hood was completely flush with the front bumper, but over here on the passenger side, there was a huge overhang from the front bumper. So it was basically off center. I also wasn't happy with this gap right here. I felt like it was a little bigger than it should have been. So I wanted to fix that as well. To figure out how to correct these things, I started doing some research, and I just couldn't find anything that was really helpful. There's not a lot of content or information out there about how to adjust or align the hood of a C4. So I thought I'd make a comprehensive video on the process. Based on the information I did find and spending some time tinkering with the hood, I was ultimately able to correct the issues. So as you can see right here, there is still a little overhang, but it's not much. And it's about the same over here. So I was able to center up the hood a little bit. It's not perfect, but it definitely looks a lot better. And I also feel like this gap is a lot better than it used to be. So the first thing you need to do before you even touch the hood is check the surrounding panels. Even though something may seem off with your hood, it's entirely possible that the issue is with one of the surrounding panels and not the hood itself. Check your doors, make sure that they are aligned and shutting properly. Check these lower panels right below the hood, make sure that they are aligned properly. You also need to check the front bumper to make sure that all the gaps look good up here and that it is aligned properly. So my front bumper was good. I was really happy with the alignment and the gap up here, but I did have to make some adjustments to these lower panels. So here on the driver's side, you can see that it looks pretty good right now. It's pretty even all the way across, whereas before one of the sides was pushed in a little bit and, you know, the other side was bulging out. Same thing on the passenger side, so I adjusted it, and as you can see, it's looking pretty good. And my doors were good. They were aligned properly, and I was really happy with the way they were shutting. So now that you've verified that it is your hood that needs adjusting, let's talk about all the different adjustments you can make. So to adjust this hood from right to left, which is what I needed to do to center it up, you have a total of 6 nuts that you need to loosen. The first one is right here, and that is a 10mm. Then you have one right there and one right there, and those are 13mm. Same thing on the other side. You have a 13mm right there and a 13mm down there, and then the other 10mm is right there. So once you have those nuts loosened, you can shimmy the hood from right to left. You may need someone to help you, but I was able to do it on my own, but it'd probably be faster and easier to have someone help you. It slid back and forth pretty easily. So again, to center up the hood, to move it right to left, loosen those 6 nuts, and that will allow you to adjust the hood that way. In order to adjust the hood front to back or back to front, you need to loosen a total of 8 bolts. So there's 2 right there, there's another one right there, and another one back there. Same thing on the other side. You have 2 right there, and then one right there, and another one back there. And these are 13mm. Let's say you need to adjust the height of your hood in the front. You would do that with shims. So if you look right here, you can see shims there. And then also down here, there are shims. And obviously to raise the hood, you would add shims, and to lower the hood, you would remove shims. All right guys, so those are what I would call the bigger adjustments you can make to this hood. Don't think that it's as simple as making those adjustments and then calling everything good. This hood is complicated, and it's one of those scenarios where if you make a small adjustment in the front, you got to come to the back and make adjustments as well. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, hopefully it begins to make sense as the video progresses. But let's turn to these latch pins and plates up here. There are some adjustments that can be made up here. And when I centered up my hood, you can see I had to scoot this plate a little bit over to the right to compensate for the adjustments that I made. To adjust this plate, you just have to remove these 2 bolts, which are 13mm. And then you do have to loosen this bump stop right here. I just got a crescent wrench to loosen that, but that will allow you to kind of play with this plate and move it back and forth to find the sweet spot. You do not have to loosen this latch pin nut right here in order to move this plate around. Let's talk about this latch pin for a second, because this is something that was a little confusing to me as I was trying to figure things out. So let's say the height of your hood needs to be adjusted in the rear portion of your hood. What you would do to adjust that is adjust this latch pin. In order to do that, you have to loosen this nut right here and then put a screwdriver in that slot and either turn it to the right in order to make this pin go further into the hood, which would lower the height of your hood in the rear, or turn it to the left, which would extend the pin out and therefore raising the height of your hood in the rear. Now this nut is really difficult to get off, and what you need is a really big crescent wrench to do the job. And I highly recommend removing this whole plate and putting it in a vise on your workbench and working with it that way. It definitely makes your life a little easier. So let's say you've made your big adjustments and then you've made your smaller adjustments up here with this latch pin and this plate. Now you may have to come down here and make some more adjustments. So this little catch plate inside that hole can be adjusted. So if your latch pin up here isn't quite catching the way you want it to, then just make some adjustments right here until it does. And you just do that with this little cable adjuster, which will adjust the cable and latch in or out. Don't forget about your bump stops, guys. So you have one up here on this latch plate and then one down here as well towards the front. You want to make sure that those are dialed in and are sitting at the correct height so they're not causing any issues. And again, all you have to do is just loosen the nut at the base of the bump stop and then turn it clockwise or counterclockwise to make the adjustment. So what I did to really ensure that my bump stops were dialed in is I stole my kids' Play-Doh. And what I did was get a little chunk of Play-Doh and roll it into a ball and flatten it a little bit and put it into the spots where the bump stops hit the hood or the chassis, and I would close the hood and that would tell me what adjustments I needed to make. Whew. Okay guys, so that's basically every adjustment you can make to this hood. Hopefully you're still with me. I know it's a lot of information, but all in all, there's about 13 adjustments you can make. So to recap, let's count them all. So you have the right to left adjustment, which is 1. The front to back adjustment, which is 2. The shim adjustments, which is 3. You have the latch plate, the latch pin, and the bump stop on both sides. So now we're at 9. You have this front bump stop on either side. So now we're at 11. And lastly, these latch plate adjustments on either side, which makes 13. So to get my hood to where I wanted it, I obviously did the left to right adjustment up front. And then I came up here and adjusted these latch plates on both sides. And also, as I would adjust these latch plates, I would make adjustments to this latch plate down here. And it takes time, guys. It took me a while to dial this in. You got to open and close the hood a lot. You got to make small adjustments a lot. There's a lot of trial and error when it comes to making adjustments to this hood. Here's another quick look at how centered the hood is now. Obviously there is some overhang on either side, but it's more symmetrical now. And I think it looks pretty good. To adjust the gap that I wasn't happy with between the door and the hood, I adjusted the latch pin, which allowed the hood to sit a little lower in this back corner, which closed the gap a little bit. It's definitely better than it was, and here's another quick look at it. And just to compare, here's the driver's side. They're pretty close, and I'm happy with it. So there you go, guys. Hopefully this information is helpful for you. I apologize that this video was kind of all over the place. There's a lot of information to cover and tie together, so hopefully you were able to stick with me. My car's an 89, and I realized that there are probably some differences and nuances from year to year, but for the most part, everything I've gone over should be applicable across the whole C4 generation. That's gonna do it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.